Welcome.
Thank you, Superintendent Elia and members of the board. And my comments are very appropriate after what you just spoke about. I'm here at the risk of being labeled an alarmist, but I do so out of genuine concern for the health of our students, and I feel in my heart that it's the right thing to do. I'm concerned about the upcoming plan to vaccinate students for the H1N1 virus in our schools, as announced by Superintendent Elia and the Director of Hillsborough County Health Services, Dr. Holt. I'm sure you all have heard the arguments for why such a plan is prudent, but I would like to take a moment to give you an opposing viewpoint. I ask you to consider Dr. Holt's statement, which has been echoed by healthcare professionals worldwide, that the illness remains mild at this time and symptoms last 72 hours on average. The H1N1 virus seems no more dangerous than the regular seasonal flu. And yet we are embarking on a vaccination program, the likes of which we have not seen since the days of polio. Why the need to fast-track an experimental vaccine for this virus? Clinical trials will only last weeks, but long-term health consequences may take years to diagnose due to vagueness of early symptoms. Vaccines are pharmaceutical products that carry the risk of injury and death. Just a few of the toxic ingredients they may contain include mercury, aluminum, and formaldehyde. They also can be contaminated with other products and viruses. If you don't believe me, you can read this Bloomberg article about how one company accidentally put live bird flu virus into regular vaccine material. Or you can look into another story reported by MSNBC about how thousands of children in Europe contracted the HIV virus from contaminated injectable medicine that was shipped overseas after it was banned here in the United States. Or you can look at the World Health Organization's own website, where they openly admit that manufacturers use mock-up vaccines to release new viruses into the population so that they can greatly expedite regulatory approval of their products. Since April 26th, we have been under a national public health emergency due to this swine flu. Among other alarming steps that can be taken under this emergency, vaccine manufacturers will now be held totally free from liability if children get hurt from the vaccine. Our government has protected Big Pharma. Now I'm asking you to protect our children. Please do some further research and reconsider allowing the health department to use our schools as mass vaccination sites. Vaccines should be administered in a medical setting following the provisions outlined in the 1986 Child Vaccine Injury Act, which requires risks and benefits to be provided before vaccination and for the child to be monitored closely after vaccination for signs of serious health problems. I thank you very much for listening to my comments, and I hope that you'll seriously consider the health of our children.
Thank you, Ms. Neidig. We appreciate you being here. Ms. Griffin?
I have the backup documentation and the letters here, if you guys would like to have them.
Okay.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Thank you, Ms. Leidig. And the speaker raises some valid concerns, and I'm just curious as to, and she raises a question for me. What language are we going to be placing on the literature that we send home outlining the risks and benefits? Has that been discussed, or are we not there yet?
No, that has not been discussed. And as I pointed out, this is something that is really being driven by the National Department of Health and the CDC. Thank you, Tom. And they are, my understanding is that they will have the forms that have been vetted by their attorneys, et cetera, and been established for parents. And I think, you know, I have in multiple cases, in multiple times, and in multiple places said parents need to make sure that they are the ones that are determining this. It is not going to be the schools. And this issue that was brought up by Ms. Neidig about having the vaccines available in the school, this is a public health emergency, and as an agency of the public, the determination of having them in the schools is not something that is made by the school board or myself. It's made by the health department. However, as we've said multiple times, it will be done with parent permission, and Ms. Neidig has raised questions that obviously she would follow in terms of making that decision for her child. And any parent who has a concern similar to hers should make that decision based on what they want for their child.
Understood. I hear what you're saying. However, and I understand that this is being driven from the federal government. I get that. But they're coming into our schools, and they're going to be using our facilities, and we are the ones that are going to be sending out the notification. I think that it's very important that regardless of what, and again, federal government, I get it, but we need to, I would like some information and some maybe legal opinion on whether or not we can, if the letter that comes to us does not meet our approval as a board, that we could look at some language on there about the risks and the benefits. Because, and I'm speaking, I'm going to say this from a personal perspective, because I know a young woman in her 20s that is suffering from severe retardation because of a vaccine that she got when she was a child. And so there are a lot of risks associated with some things, and her parents are the people who sued without a lawyer many years ago. So, you know, there's some valid issues here, and I'd like to just as a board state that if we can have a conversation about it, if we can have a view of the form that's going to be sent out, and our attorney could let us know whether or not we can put some additional language on there if it's not on there.
Let me find out. Okay, let's do this. Ms. Edgecombe, you had a question that's in relation to this.
Yes,
So-
because we aren't sure, I'm not sure whether I understood where is the letter coming from and who's right. Is it coming from the health department through and using us as the vehicle to get the information to our parents, or is the letter coming from us? I wasn't sure about that.
My understanding, Ms. Edgecombe, is that the health department will provide the letter and the language of that for us. But I certainly will keep the board informed as we are moving through this process. At this point in time, there's no sure dates, and the things that you're talking about, I think, are valid points, but are something that we just don't have that information yet. But we certainly will provide a copy of whatever Dr. Holt gives to us, to our attorney, Tom Gonzalez, and to you.
Good. Thank you. Ms. Edgecombe, Ms. Olson, final comment?
Thank you. Yeah, I just ask staff to keep the concerns that have been expressed in mind, and we have to respect parents' rights, but we also need to work together as partners. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one final speaker.